thank you for joining us. We hope you have a great evening.
For more news, go to CBS4.com, where you can listen to our radio partner, News Radio 610 WIOD. Now here's the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric. We'll see you at 11.
From London, pomp and power. As world leaders tackle the financial crisis, the Treasury Secretary tells CBS News more heads could roll.
So you leave the option open to actually pressure a bank CEO to resign?
Of course.
Tonight, the global challenge, recession to recovery. I'm Katie Couric at the G20 summit. Also tonight, street demonstrations here turned violent. Protesters stormed the Royal Bank of Scotland, angry that British taxpayers were forced to bail it out. In France, a wave of boss nappings by workers furious about job cuts. And the British give America's First Lady a welcome.
She's just an amazing woman.
Fit for a queen.
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric reporting tonight from London.
Good evening, everyone. The G20 summit officially opens here tomorrow, and both President Obama and British Prime Minister Gordon Brown are predicting there will be an agreement on a rescue plan for the world economy. But today, many of the leaders got down to business with a series of important one-on-one meetings, including Mr. Obama and the President of Russia. Chip Reed is our chief White House correspondent, and Chip, they made a surprising and significant announcement.
Yes, they did, Katie. On his first day on the world stage, President Obama grabbed the spotlight with a breakthrough with Russia on nuclear weapons. After the president's first meeting with Russian President Dmitry Medvedev, the two leaders announced negotiations on a new treaty to reduce their nuclear arsenals. In a joint statement, they said, "We committed our two countries to achieving a nuclear-free world." White House officials say it's part of an ambitious agenda worked out in advance to give U.S.-Russian relations a fresh start.
Over the last several years, the relationship between our two countries has been allowed to drift.
That veiled criticism of the Bush administration later became much more direct when a senior White House official said the U.S. and Russia will now focus on mutual interests, not, quote, a buddy-buddy relationship. A reference to former President Bush's claim that he looked into Russian leader Vladimir Putin's eyes and got a sense of his soul. Mr. Obama accepted an invitation to visit Russia in July, and he tried out his Russian.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Спасибо.
Спасибо. I'm still working on my Russian.
Just 2 hours later, he accepted another invitation from Chinese President Hu Jintao to visit China later this year. The grueling day began early this morning at 10 Downing Street, where the President and First Lady were welcomed by British Prime Minister Gordon Brown and his wife Sarah. At a press conference, Mr. Brown heaped praise on his American guest.
Your first 70 days in office have changed America, and you've changed America's relationship with the world.
Despite policy differences with French President Nicolas Sarkozy and German Chancellor Angela Merkel, Sarkozy today expressed confidence in Mr. Obama, who insisted that their differences have been vastly overstated.
I am absolutely confident that this meeting will reflect enormous consensus.
This evening, the president visited Buckingham Palace for a private audience with the Queen and husband Prince Philip. Mr. Obama's gift for the Queen, a video iPod with footage of her 2007 trip to Washington, a gift that officials say she requested. Tomorrow is a crucial day in this summit. The G20 leaders hope to pound out a final agreement on rescuing the global economy. It will focus on more stimulus spending and more regulation, and White House officials say they are confident an agreement is very near. Katie?
Chip Reed, thank you very much. Now, if you want to be seen and heard, show up where the cameras and microphones are. There are plenty of them here for this summit, and they've attracted thousands of demonstrators, from environmentalists to anarchists. The summit is being held in East London near the Old Docks. The demonstration's about 4 miles away in the financial district. Mark Phillips reports there was some violence and more than 30 arrests.
No major international summit is complete these days without its requisite street theater of protest, and while this one may not have been as big as feared, it made up in enthusiasm what it lacked in size. Police said about 4,000 people jammed into the center of London's financial district. There were times when the protesters seemed to be getting the upper hand. Pockets of police surrounded and in retreat. With each side blaming the other for starting the violence, you get enough angry people in a small space and bad things happen.
They hit me in the head twice.
The yellow line of the law formed up to try to contain the chaos.
London's police are using a new tactic in these demonstrations, a variation on the police cordon, not to keep demonstrators out, but to keep them in.
But penning them in only seemed to make some of the protesters angrier. A few of them, police said they were known anarchists looking for trouble, broke their way into the offices of one of the failed banks that's had to be bailed out with taxpayers' money. The G20 leaders may be here to try to fix the world's economy. The demonstrators were here to hold to account the bankers they believe broke it.
As well as anger, I mean, there's no question about it, there is a righteous fury against this just skullduggery and corruption and sheer theft.
That fury was acted out on the streets of London, but there's more left. Protests are also planned for tomorrow around the venue where the G20 leaders will be meeting. Mark Phillips, CBS News, London.
Just before flying here to the summit, President Obama staged his own protest of sorts when he, in effect, fired the CEO of General Motors after finding his restructuring plan unacceptable. Today, Treasury Secretary Tim Geithner told me executives of banks taking bailouts could suffer the same fate.
Will you exert even more influence in the future if these CEOs aren't managing their businesses properly?
You know, recovery here in our economy as a whole depends on a financial system that's doing a better job of providing credit. We want banks to go back to the business of making sure they're providing the credit that, you know, families and businesses need to invest in the future. Again, we're going to make sure we do that on conditions to protect the taxpayer, provide the kind of accountability that the American people want. And again, the test should be what's going to make these institutions stronger.
So you leave the option open to actually pressure a bank CEO to resign?
Of course, of course.
Do you think the global recession is getting worse, or do you think the worst is over?
We've seen some encouraging signs, not just in the United States recently, but in some other economies as a whole. But this is a very challenging crisis. It took a long time for these problems to build up. It's going to take some time for us to work through this.
Mr. Secretary, a congressional investigator told a Senate committee yesterday that the Treasury Department still has no mechanism for tracking how banks have spent billions of dollars in TARP money, and that much of that, or some of that, could have been lost to fraud. How can this be?
We are moving very quickly, Katie, to make sure we have in place strong transparency, strong conditions on this assistance, stronger tracking mechanisms, and we're committed to the strongest possible oversight, not just by the Congressional Oversight Panel, but by the Treasury Inspector Generals, by the GAO, and where they propose things that will make our program stronger, we will adopt them.
With all due respect, aren't you a day late and a dollar short? I mean, $300 billion has been doled out, and this investigator tells a Senate committee there's no mechanism in place. It seems crazy to the average person.
Katie, I've been Secretary of the Treasury for 2 months. If you look at the new commitments we've made, not the commitments we've inherited, not the disbursements that are already made, but if you look at the new commitments we've made, we are bringing the strongest standards of transparency and accountability to those programs. The American people will be able to judge how this money is being used, the impact it's having, and again, we're going to work very closely with those oversight bodies and make sure that we're giving them all the tools they need to do their job.
You've really been in the crosshairs the past couple of months. Has that been difficult for you?
You know, when I took this job, I knew, I was coming into a job where there was just enormous challenges, enormous anger, frustration across the country for the damage caused by people who took too much risk. It's just deeply unfair, and I knew that all the choices we were going to make were going to be tough choices, and this was going to come with a lot of heat. It comes with a job, expected it, and it is a great privilege for me to work with this president and this Congress to try to help address these basic challenges, put in place a stronger financial system for the future. And again, we're moving very, very quickly to try to do that.
Treasury Secretary Timothy Geithner, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Secretary Geithner also told me GM and Chrysler have made some progress in their restructuring, but, quote, they're not there yet. Meanwhile, all the automakers are still having trouble selling cars. Today, GM reported sales plunged 45% in March, Ford down 41%, Chrysler and Toyota Sales fell 39%. In other news tonight, a huge embarrassment for the Justice Department admitting today it did not play fair in the prosecution of former Alaska Senator Ted Stevens on corruption charges. It's now asking a judge to throw out his conviction, and our justice correspondent Bob Orr explains.
When Alaska Senator Ted Stevens was convicted last October, the Bush Justice Department hailed the verdict as a victory over corruption.
Guilty on all counts.
And just a week later, Stevens, facing up to 35 years in prison, lost his bid for re-election. But today, in a stunning reversal, the government admitted it withheld critical evidence from the defense. In asking a judge to throw out Stevens' conviction, Attorney General Eric Holder promised to drop all charges, saying it is in the interest of justice to dismiss the indictment and not proceed with a new trial.